Hey, this is Christian Buckley, and I'm here with Eric Overfield. Like, we just saw each other. We're just hanging out.
I know. It's good.
Four days ago.
Yeah, Utah.
SharePoint Saturday, Utah. And so, Eric, introduce yourself. Talk about what's at your company, what you do.
Sure. Hey, all. My name is Eric Overfield. I'm president, co-founder of PixelMill. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, as well as a Microsoft regional director. Here at PixelMill, we focus on building custom portals and solutions for our clients on top of Office 365, Azure, and SharePoint. Azure and SharePoint. We're looking to help clients build those successful portals that help drive user adoption.
And I should also, and Eric also stepped in and is so in Northern California especially. Well, you get involved with a lot of SharePoint Saturdays, but so when I had gone in and helped launch a number of these SharePoint Saturdays in the Western U.S., Sacramento, Silicon Valley. Can't remember. Did you attend the East Bay one back in 2010?
No, I didn't. Okay. No, that was 1 year before I really got involved. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, that was back with, so I helped start like SharePoint Saturday, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Silicon Valley, Bend, Oregon, helped with Portland, Salt Lake, Phoenix, a bunch of these. And Eric, now, like, you're like the primary driver of Silicon Valley and Sacramento, but I know you're involved in a bunch of other ones because you helped with Redmond for years as well. And yeah,
I kind of followed your model and tried to help seed the West Coast. I mean, Denver on West, and almost all of them are doing great by themselves, which is what we want to see, right? I mean, I can't be everywhere, you can't be everywhere. It's really wonderful to see the community step up and deliver great SharePoint Saturdays. LA just had one, San Diego just had one. Really, really cool to see.
And Hawaii. So Honolulu's had a number of those. Have you been to one of those, though? I've not been.
I've been to a couple. It's tough for me just because it's a expensive flight ticket. But yes, it's a beautiful spot.
It's a fun technology event / boondoggle. Yeah. So.
Well, SharePoint Friday or Saturday / Friday.
Yeah.
It's on Friday. Yeah.
It makes sense for Honolulu to have theirs on a Friday because really, who is going to use their Saturday?
Work on a Saturday. Yeah. Exactly.
But we're actually talking about something completely different. So it's funny. So like we just kind of were talking at the event, and I didn't know you had an interest in it. You didn't know that I was involved. One of my clients in the topic, but is around blockchain.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what's your level of activity in that space?
It pulls out the inner geek in me. And it's all hyped. I get it. Blockchain's hyped. What's really cool, when this recording is happening, we just blew the top off of blockchain on top of cryptocurrencies. So it's kind of like nice that I can talk about what's happening with blockchain, and we can get past the whole cryptocurrency craze that's going on. Blockchain itself, when I looked at the protocol, I looked at the tenets behind it, I saw beauty. I saw technologically geeky beauty that can change the world as lame as that sounds in today's hyped world of cryptocurrencies. I think on the enterprise side, on the government side, on the sociological side, not on the cryptocurrency side, we're going to be talking about this for a very long time. And I like to go back to thinking about, like the early 90s when it was before the 90s, but when the protocol TCP came out, TCP/IP, the base of the internet, when it first came out, it was this protocol that people were like, oh, cool, we can communicate somehow. And people were like, okay, well, now what? And then email was created. And people were like, oh, well, we can now send email across. We can send this electronic mail. Oh, cool. The first killer app of the internet. And it wasn't until years later that HTTP, the web, www really came out back in 94, 95. It took time for that to catch on. And look where we are now with the web. I see blockchain just like that. It's this technology that is so cool, yet we don't even really know what to do. There's all these people promising that we're going to change the world. Government's going to go away because of this. A lot of hype. But the underlying protocol, the underlying technology and the idea of blockchain, give it 10, 20 years.
Right. And that's the way, and so my background too is, so I worked in, so supply chain collaboration. So you think of some of those, and I was actually involved with part of the marketing advisory board for the Global Grid Forum. If you remember GGF, and we're involved with that. And so my co-founder at the time, software company I started sat on a number and actually led a couple of the working groups around GGF. And a lot of that, what we were trying to do was moving organizations in the supply chain world away from having to use EDI and very expensive transactional costs with securely communicating with their suppliers. Yep. And that's a lot of what we worked on. It wasn't the GGF is so much that kind of led towards other things, but was, like actually helping with shape some of the collaboration standards around even like large file transfer protocols. I'm using wrapping things in SOAP and and transporting that. But we were creating back in 2001 to 2004 was part of a startup where we were creating these closed networks because security was an issue. It's spoofing of some of these the messages between these systems. It was really just kind of these open standards to hacking capabilities. So part of our answer was that we had these closed networks that we would create for these OEMs, so they know that the only members of that network were their partners. But we even went so far as creating like edge devices and streamlining communication between these things. But what's exciting to me, I like you, around blockchain is not so much like how some of the initial uses of it, like the Bitcoin stuff, but is the foundational, the infrastructure aspect of the technology. Yep. How that could, talking with, so I've got one client that I'm actually helping. They've got an ICO scheduled for the spring, so I'm working with them on that launch. I've got another prospective client that is in the healthcare side of the world. Think about that. If you were able to go in and securely share your personal medical information, so your identity, all that information, and you control who then sees that, what is seen, but then can be shared with as you move out of state with a new medical provider. Like, it is just rife with problems, with errors now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you remove the storage from a specific entity, and it goes out into the untrusted world in a good way, secured, but out in the world through these distributed nodes. So there is no central authority anymore, which is great. The issue that I see, kind of what's interesting right now, is more of a thought experiment, is the current problem that I see with blockchain, and let's go back to the web. When the web first came out, people were like, wow, this is really great, but we really need to be able to securely have credit card transactions. And it took a little bit while, and then people were like, oh, we have this thing called SSL and private key security, and we were able to have HTTPS. I have a feeling there's a logjam with blockchain truly being accepted by the enterprise, and it's around private key management. Blockchain is required. It requires that you be able to securely lock your stuff with a private key. So I have this medical record, these medical data. I have to have my private key. Well, what if I lose it? Gone. Your records are all gone. And that's not going to work. And I think whoever figures out like that problem, they're going to be able to take on Amazon. And I'm not trying to be like lofty with that. I think that blockchain has the ability to create the next Amazon company that could become even the next $1 trillion company, or become the first one, because there's some really hard things to figure out, and someone's going to figure it out. Remember, blockchain was basically an idea that one guy, or maybe a small group of people, one person or a small group of people came out with 07, 09-ish. So they just sort of thought this up. I think that there's that one person, that one small group of people who are going to say, oh, hey, I've got a way to store private keys in a way that will work across, that will never be forgotten, but is in fact secure, something that I can hold on to. I'll never forget it. And yet has the, you can't steal it from me.
Is there just what about LastPass?
We could spend a half hour talking about this stuff. Who knows? There's going to be something, and I think that's really cool. But when I come back to blockchain at where I'm at personally, it's more just the geeky side. I love the theory behind it, and in particular, this thing called proof of work, which is one of the tenets of most blockchains, not all of them, is just so geeky cool, and it's so simple yet so beautifully awesome. It's just fun to be a part of. I've got some blog articles I've got written that are just like my takes on it, because it's interesting. If we take it back to our world, like SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure, I don't have a good story yet. Like, I can't tell you the best things, but I think people are going to figure out ways to use blockchain to help secure and securely store documents, that this is in fact the document. I think smart contracts can get involved, where the idea that when something occurs, you are guaranteed that external and internal events within Azure, Office 365, SharePoint do in fact occur, that they verify it occurred.
And that was a very important part of the supply chain communication, is because there had to be the sending back and forth of those acknowledgements to like verify this was received, this is what we're looking at. And it's again, I think that the principles underlying there is kind of why a lot of organizations look at SharePoint as one version of the truth, that we're all looking at the same thing. Again, the principle there of that. And so to have a secure way as you're sharing this information to know that, okay, that is truly that data of record for that activity.
And that it has not at all been hacked in any way. Because if it's on the blockchain, it cannot, you get a hash of it. You basically say this document is basically impossible to have changed. This is in fact the document that was sent. So this is not going to be for a small company that just has documents they store. I mean, this would be a theory more around like enterprise at a high level, where the document must be for, they'd be a legal hold. We want no ability for this document to have been hacked in any way. We need to know this is the document, in fact, that was needed for that. But I don't know, but that's interesting. And I'm excited to kind of be in the spot that we're in. I like this idea that we've got this new technology that I do believe is going to change the world. I always like to say there are two little caveats. One is, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm in no way saying you should go buy cyber currencies. I am a buyer of it, so I do have skin in the game, but I am doing that mainly because I want to see how the system works. But I do believe that some of the underlying cryptocurrencies, what they offer, is going to be the basis of where some solutions on blockchain are going to be built. It's just fascinating to watch. I'm just happy that some of the hype got taken out. Hopefully the hype won't come back. Instead, we can start to build real applications on top of a protocol, an idea that I think is just amazing.
Well, I think a lot of the thought, and well, look, we could go and talk longer around that, just that topic of the fact that we need to get some regulatory bodies involved with it to be able to build some trust between some financial institutions. And I mean, there are, I don't know enough about the space. Again, I'm just dabbling. I'm more interested in the infrastructural part than a lot of the currencies, that side of it. Also, begun investing in that to learn about that. I know some of our mutual friends that are much more invested within the space, and one of the things that is, again, a side that I'm learning a lot about is the fact that it is the amount of money that's being raised by startups in this space that are using initial coin offerings or ICOs versus the traditional venture route. It's like 4 or 5x. It's incredible.
Because it's so easy, right? It's not
right, but it's also but that's an important distinction there. It's like you don't have to then be a professional investor of net worth in the millions of dollars to go in there and invest. But it's also not it's not like you're buying in options, stock the same way. You're essentially buying into technology and are owning a piece of what will become. In that, and so as they, so it's like doing a Kickstarter campaign almost, in that you're investing. It is high risk, but like all ventures. But by having a vested interest, by looking at the long tail of investment and having people that might actually use your technology, your platform, once it is developed. You're also, with that, by allowing that type of investment, building your base.
Absolutely.
People that are invested in seeing that it succeeds. And so, I mean, it's an exciting space. There's a lot of risk there. I'm not any way an expert on those things, but it is. I mean, I was telling my daughter, who Eric is at graduate school. She's at the University of Minnesota doing her master's in public health administration, and I was chatting with her, talking to her about this prospective client in the healthcare space. And I said, "Has it come up in your program? Are you guys talking about that?" She's like, "Never heard of it." Very next day, she a voicemail from her. It's like, "Dad, it's like the major discussion now. Like, it came up and we're talking." She's like, "So thank you for prompting me that because she went and looked at some stuff and read up on it. So she actually had something to say about it the next day. But it's I think it's going to revolutionize a number of industries. Healthcare is one of those. So yeah.
Healthcare for sure. I think financial as well. The other thing I look at would also help me think, wow, this is something, is look at the Microsoft investments Microsoft's making. They're building a very solid infrastructure to be able to run an enterprise blockchain, not cryptocurrency, like straight up enterprise blockchain. They're heavily involved in the community to help develop the underlying technology and underlying protocols to build business applications. And even they are admitting, we don't fully know what to build with this yet. We're just making sure that we're going to be the infrastructure vendor of choice. So
there's also, I went and joined in the MVP communities. I joined the group around that. And there was only like 20 people in there.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by that. Thousands of MVPs on all the different technologies. And there's less than 20 of us.
It's that new right now. And it's hard to participate right now because it does require such heavy coding. But it's still interesting. I'm trying to keep my nose above water on the knowledge of it so that if I ever see an opportunity, be like, cool, let's pull people together and let's make this happen.
Yeah. Well, exciting. Well, Eric, I mean, it's an interesting topic. I know. Hey, I'm actually down in LA for 3 days next week meeting with this client. So starting to plan for that ICO. So it's exciting stuff. I'll have to give you the inside information on that and what's happening. There's nothing illegal about that. I'm just going to tell you about what I'm working on. And if you choose to invest,
invest is a hard word to use some of the stuff, but yes, I hear you, and that's great. I hope the best for him for sure.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric, and thanks for patience. And how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Easy way is remember my name at Eric Overfield or at ericoverfield.com, or give us a call here at PixelMill, pixelmill.com.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
All right.
Bye all.